Some patients at HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital in Effingham are getting visits from more than just doctors and nurses these days. The facility started a pet therapy program, and we're going to learn all about it on this episode of the Paw Report.
Fetcher's Pet Supply on the north side of the Charleston Square, serving the EIU community since 1991. Fetcher's welcomes all pets on a leash, is open 7 days a week, and offers made in the USA food. Pet supplies for dogs, cats, reptiles, and fish. Fetcher's Pet Supply in Charleston.
The Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Paw Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
Thank you for joining us for this special episode of the Paw Report. And I say special because we have 3 special guests with us on set today. And we're talking about a new program that's launched at St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital over in Effingham. And we have Ashley Dillingham, Kim Harmon, and kind of seated real close and snugly to Kim is our buddy Indy. And we're going to learn all about him as well throughout the program. So thank you both for joining us for this first and great episode of the Paw Report with a new program that's launched at St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital. We'll talk about that first with you, Ashley. New program, hit with the patients. It's a pet therapy program. Tell us when and why it launched.
So it was really interesting kind of kismet is what I would say, because I'm a member of Effingham Noon Rotary, and we have guest speakers every week, and one of our guest speakers at that was Mary Jo Tucker, and she is a tester observer of the Alliance for Therapy Dogs, and also has a therapy dog named Freddie, whom she brought to Noon Rotary. And when she walked in, I mean, everybody just, were oohing and awing and just having so much fun with Freddie, who is a 5-year-old boxer and has freckles and just a lot of personality. Well, it turned out that about the next week, my chief nursing officer said, "Hey, I've been reading about this and hearing about this therapy dog thing. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, that's really funny because I literally just met the person who does it in Effingham." So Mary Jo and I got together and with a couple of other leaders at St. Anthony's and developed a policy and a process, and then we started reaching out and were able to get the program off the ground this spring. We were about to launch it last spring, but then with COVID we had to put it on hold. But we were able to launch it this spring, and it has just been amazing to see the colleagues and the patients and our visitors and the joy that they have when they see our pups walking through the hospital.
Well, I saw joy when Indy walked through the door today, so I know what you're talking about. Let's talk about how the program works, and we're going to get with Kim and Indy here in just a little bit. But first, some of the housekeeping on how the program works. And do the dogs simply go to the patients? Are they all patients, certain areas of the hospital, waiting rooms, staff meetings?
Sure. So we cover a lot of the hospital. We do focus on the inpatient side of the hospital, so we don't really go to the outpatient clinics or anything. There are a couple areas we do not go to because of the need to keep the areas sterile, or maybe because of the acuity of illness. So we don't go to the intensive care unit, we don't go to surgery, we don't go to women and infants or labor and delivery. But we do go to all of our medical surgical units, and we also go to pediatrics if it's open. And we visit with patients if the patient is agreeable and if they meet the criteria, primarily that they don't have a respiratory issue and they're not on isolation. And also we have to have a doctor's order. So we let the doctors know that we're coming in with the pups, and if they're agreeable, then we bring them into the patient room. But the thing that has been amazing to me is to see the effect on our colleagues. So as everybody knows, the last year and a half has been really difficult, and in healthcare and in the hospital, you can imagine some added stress there. So we walk around just to the nursing units and let them pet and cuddle and play with the animals, whether they're a nurse or an aide or leadership. It's amazing to see my fellow leaders get down on the ground with these dogs and just get so excited that they're there. So they're there not only for our patients and visitors, but also for our colleagues.
Sure. Let's, at this point, introduce Kim and her buddy, Indy. So thank you so much for trucking Indy. Yes. So tell us about you and Indy and how you came about to get Indy. And he's you might tell us his breed too, because that's really interesting.
Yes. Indy is a 3-year-old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, and he is bred to be a Velcro dog or a lap dog. Aww. So that's why these pups are actually wonderful to be therapy dogs. He's well, what can I say? He's just a joy to everyone. His name is Indy, and it's after the Indianapolis 500 because we're big race fans. And his job is just to make you happy.
Yes.
Just loves that.
And so tell us about how you kind of got into the therapy arena and tell us about Indy going through some training. It's not just an overnight thing. You've spent months with him and it's continual.
Yes. Well, we got Indy, and when we got Indy, I decided he has to have a purpose. So I did some research, and of course there's the guide dogs and everything else, but I didn't want to have a dog that I had to give up. I wanted a dog that could pay it forward, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So I found the pet therapy program and landed on the Alliance, and we started the program. And we went to Dogs by Design, and the Ashley Davison there has been his trainer, and she did some testing on him to see if he could even become it, because it's quite an intense program. So she said that he could, and in about we've been training we trained for about 14 months. We trained with police dogs. We trained with search and rescue dogs. So he went through advanced training and agility, and even though he's not very good at agility, he would jump over there and look back and say, "Mom, look what I did," and he would go onto the 6-foot walls and climb over them and do everything he needed to do, because he needed to learn trust. He needed to know that, okay, I'm going to put him in a difficult position and a situation that he wasn't comfortable with, but I was always going to be there for him. So we had to learn to become a team. So it was about 14 months, and then it was time for us to decide when he was 18 months old to try a testing, and so Mary Jo was right there with us, and she was my tester, such a sweetheart. And it's 3 tests. You go to 3 different areas and test. You test at a nursing home. And I will never forget our first time. Jo put me, because I've been in the health field for 41 years, she put me in a position with a nonverbal person, and she said, "See if you can get Indy to get a reaction." And it was our very first time doing it, and he got the man to cry, and it was a heartwarming moment. And at that time, she said, "You passed." And she said, "But we got to do 2 more tests." So we went with the other testing, and then we took a test where you put him in a health position, and he has to know, the oxygen tanks and all, the wheelchairs and all. That can be quite scary to a dog. So he had to go through all that. But we had to do a safe test where he could learn to a command called "leave it," and where if there was medication on the floor, he'd have to know that when I say "leave it," he'd have to leave if something would happen to fall, a syringe or whatever. So the way that Jo does that is she took us out to Rural King, and I know you have a Rural King here in town, and they serve popcorn. And she took us to the bunnies, and he had to sit 3 minutes, I believe, with a bunny and just stare at the bunny and not bark.
That's tough.
And not interact, just sit there. I do remember that. That was one of the tests. So even though these seem like silly tests, they have a purpose.
Sure.
When you're in a hospital, obviously he can't bark when he sees something that he does. And so then he'd have to maneuver through all that popcorn, which was a leave it moment. That all the popcorn was medicine on the floor, and he would have to leave it. So that was some of the testing that he had to do it. And trust me, this boy loves his popcorn. So it was quite a test. But when we got all said and done, she said, "You passed the first day, but here we are, having to do the three different testing in 3 different areas to make sure that he's qualified." Indy actually has done enough testing and has made enough visits that he is actually an advanced therapy dog with the AKC. And so we are currently working on the next level, which is excellence. So that means that he's had to make at least 100 approved visits to that AKC has approved and documented and said that he has done a fine job on.
Oh, you're doing a fabulous job, Indy. When Indy got out of the car to come into the studio, I just said his name, and he like shaking all over, and his tail is going.
And that's generally
I
how
know,
he
he's
is.
just
But when this is exactly how he is when he goes into, and he knows that he has to get in a chill. So right now he knows that he's working because he has these vests on. He knows, but he comes in and he gets excited. He knows that he's going to work. But when it's time to work, this is what he does in the hospital or on top of the bed. And it's amazing with the children, because we have worked in the Ronald McDonald House, and from the Ronald McDonald House with infants to up to a 100-year-old lady, and in a nursing home, and it doesn't matter, they all love their pups. Everyone can interact and has a story to tell with a pup or a dog.
Well, you two could probably tell millions of stories, and we're going to get to some of those. But I'm sure that you have seen not only the benefits for patients, but also family members, staff members, those that aren't necessarily laying in a hospital bed, the joy and the benefits that the therapy dogs bring.
Yes, it's been outstanding just to see you can see the physical reaction of the stress melting away, whether it is a patient who's very anxious about a procedure or about their illness and having to be hospitalized, or if it's a colleague who's been having a rough day. We've had some colleagues who have gotten a little teary and said, "I didn't even know that I needed this today." And Kim said something about when Indy puts on his vest, he knows it's time to go to work. And that is the case with all of the dogs. They all have a vest or a badge or a bandana. And every single handler I've talked to and introduced to the hospital, they say, as soon as we put that on, they know it's work time. And their whole demeanor just changes, and they get ready to come in and to give that joy and to reduce that anxiety. And when we have our patients hooked up to the monitors, you can actually see the decrease in blood pressure, the decrease in heart rate, where they become obviously more calm. And it's just so wonderful to see not just their emotional change, but also that it is truthfully making a physical difference in that patient as well as in our colleagues. And the other thing that I love is that each dog has their own personality, and each has one of their either a favorite thing that they do or a way that they act, and every colleague asks me which dog is coming today so that they can prepare. So we have Bodie and Duke, our 2 standard poodles that come in, and they love to give high fives. And so everybody's like, "Oh great, I get to do a high five today." Indy's our cuddle bug. So Indy's the one that we get to hold and pet, and he's our smallest dog in the group. Freddie is our 5-year-old boxer, like I mentioned before, and he gets a swagger. So when he's walking down the hall, you see him like this, and he's like, "I am ready. I am here. Everybody pay attention to me."
Kind of a diva, huh?
A little bit, but always with that joy and that excitement. And his tongue is just he always just looks so happy. He's got this tongue that just hangs out, and he's just like, "Hey guys, are you here? Are you good? Is life okay? You need me to do something for you today?" So it's just wonderful to see the reaction and to feel the mood lift in the hospital the moment that they walk through the doors.
So how long are they on the job?
Sure. So we block out an hour for each time. We do adjust that depending on patient needs, or if we have a particularly, maybe intense interaction, because we want to make sure that we are being respectful of our handlers and our pups as well, because it is work for them, and they do absorb kind of the emotion in the situation, very empathetic animals. And so, like I said, we schedule an hour, and we typically always go to our 2 medical surgical floors as well as to the emergency room, but we modify that depending on the patient needs.
Kim, you were talking about that, and you know firsthand, being Indy's pet mom, that when he goes to work, for that hour that he's there, it is intense work.
It is.
And then you said when he gets in the car, he's ready to nap. So tell us about, just that strain that sometimes they take on.
Well, as you saw when he comes in, he's really happy to see you. It's his way of greeting you and letting you know that he's here, what do you need me to do, and I'm here. But when he gets on the floor, generally he is calmed back down, and usually doesn't even take that long to get on the floor. And we go to the first patient, and again, it's like we'll say, "We have a therapy dog for you. Would you like to see it?" And they're just like, "Come on in, come on in." Because they just need sometimes they just need a distraction. And so we're usually with the patient about 15 to 20 minutes where I'm sitting and I talk with them, and we talk about whatever they want. Sometimes I go from room to room and I'm talking about the same thing. But for them, they're the most special thing in that 20 minutes that we have with them. And Indy will lay on their bed, and if they want him to, or on their lap. And generally they'll say, "Can he get closer? Can he get closer?" And they'll ask, "Can he give me a kiss?" And I say, "No, he can't give you a kiss on your face, but he can give you a kiss on your hand." And that's just all they need. So it's after we do that, then yes, afterwards he's taken on all that anxiety and all that emotion that they had to take, that they released off to him, and it's just a biophysical thing. And then on our way home, it's usually I'm out of it, I'm napping. But if we have to do it again some other time that day, he's ready to go. He's done. He's worked with children who have dyslexia. He's worked with special needs that can't read. And it's amazing when you put him with a child who can't read in front of the classroom because of an emotion or for whatever reason. We sit down on the floor and they say, "Just get a book," and they're reading. They may be reading correctly, they may not be reading correctly, but they'll get nervous, and then all of a sudden, it happens every time, they will reach over to Indy and just start stroking him. They don't even realize what they're doing, and they'll just stroking him. They'll be pulling his ear, and they'll be twisting it like this, and then all of a sudden, the whole room just lets up, and they're reading. And they can be below level by the end of the year. They're usually at level or above level, just by touching and stroking a dog and getting that confidence that they are a worthy person.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, one of my follow-up questions talked about the benefits of this program, and I think for the last 10 minutes you've just told us what the benefits are. I mean, to humans and to our persona, and to our, sometimes our mental state. You talked about, Ashley, how you remember seeing a patient that was pretty stoic in their hospital bed. Well, you tell the story about how they didn't really have a lot of emotion or activity.
Not very much get up and go. They were pretty distraught about their illness and the plan of care, and they knew that they were probably going to have to go to a nursing facility, and they weren't looking forward to that, even though we know they provide excellent care. A lot of people just want to be able to go home. But when we brought the pup in, their face just lit up, and The other thing that we see a lot of is we bring the dogs in and the patients are getting out their phones and they're showing their animals and talking about how much they miss them and how it's wonderful to have that connection. But that particular patient, the thing that they said that just tugged at my heart and really spoke to me is that the reason that they love animals is because they don't judge you. There's no judgment. They don't care where you work. They don't care if you work. They don't care how you look. They don't care where you've been. They don't care that you're in the hospital and that you're sick. They're just there to provide you unconditional love and that joy. And when I tell you, we were all crying in the room when he shared that. And he's not the only one who said something like that or where we've seen that anxiety decrease and just that connection where they feel so important and so special. Like Kim was saying, you know, for those 20 minutes, they are the focus. And even when we're with the colleagues, you know, for those 2 minutes when the colleagues take a break to pet, whether it's Indy or Freddie or Bodie or Hap, it's just the two of them in that little world. And you can just see the stress just evaporate off of them.
Kim, you probably have some stories that stick out in your mind when you've walked into rooms with Indy. Tell us about a couple of those.
My 100-year-old lady, she's a lovely little person, and she would always say, you know, how's my pup today? How's he doing? You know, and she was in a nursing home, and she was on, you know, everything that you could, oxygen and things like that, but she would want Indy right up there. And since then, she has passed. But to have the family come and say, for those moments, Mom really needed that. Thank you for coming to seeing Mom and seeing, coming to seeing her. It was just everything. So that was one of my touching moments. And then working in the Ronald McDonald House at Riley, our granddaughter was up there for surgery, and so we went there to visit, and they asked to bring if Indy could come in there. And as Ashley has stated, seeing that is a very intense moment to be in the Ronald McDonald House. You're not in the Ronald McDonald House if there's not a major thing going on, and have Indy just sit there and then just sit and stroke and tell you their story and everything. It has brought everything to light that we are paying it forward to somebody. We are making a difference for someone's life for that moment. And the school, going to the schools and seeing these rough top football people coming in, and they have to have, you know, their persona coming on, but then you just see them with a little dog like this and say, well, hi Indy, how are you today? How are you doing? And coming and talking to us at the Effingham High School or any other high school that we work with is just, it's amazing. As Ashley has said, that everything they change. They have a story. Everyone has a story about their pup or what they like. And as she said, bringing out their phones and wanting to show us their dog, because we can all relate to something, to an animal, because they're non-judging.
I think the two of you have just really solidified the success of the program at St. Anthony's. Is it something that you're looking to grow? Do you hope to maybe get some more dogs into the program in the future?
Absolutely. We are always open to that. We do require, as part of our policy, that any of the dogs that come into St. Anthony's are certified by the Alliance for Therapy Dogs. That program also requires for the handlers to have background checks, and as Kim explained earlier, it's pretty extensive testing, and also that the dogs be a year old before they come into the hospital. But if they meet that criteria, we love to have them come in and to bring that joy. And I'm really excited because I know we mentioned Mary Jo Tucker a little earlier. She's the tester observer for the Effingham area. She has just shared with me that she has a couple other handlers and pups that are interested in coming aboard and coming to the hospital to spread some more joy and smiles, which is the Alliance for Therapy Dog. It's their motto, right? Is bringing smiles and joy.
Right.
So we're really looking forward to that and being able to continue to share that not only with our patients but with our colleagues and visitors.
In the last couple of minutes that we have, I guess and you've said it, but maybe again, what brings you the most joy about being a part of this program and launching this program? And I'll ask both of you.
I think for me, it's seeing not just the positivity it brings to our patients, but after the year that we've had in healthcare and in the community, you know, with the pandemic, seeing just the sheer joy and the smiles and the relief of stress on our colleagues' faces, knowing that we can brighten their day for just a moment if they're having a difficult one, knowing that we can brighten a patient's day if they're having a difficult time. Kelly, I told you earlier before we started, I'm everybody's favorite person on Therapy Dog Day. So, you know, when I walk onto the floor and I have a couple of colleagues where I kind of sing-song their name and they're like, what? And then they turn and immediately it's, you saw me earlier with Indy, it's, hi baby, how are you? Like the voice goes up, you're down on the ground, you're cuddling, you're petting, you're just having a ball with the animals. And just to see that stress relief for me as a leader at the hospital and also as a social worker is a wonderful thing to see.
Last couple seconds, Kim. What puts the smile on your face?
Putting the smile on someone else's face. Just allowing to know for a few moments of the day their joy, they're feeling genuine joy, and they're happy, and be able to have that human to human contact is just all we need.
And I think that's the perfect way to end our discussion today on the pet therapy program at HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital over in Effingham. So Ashley and Kim and Indy, you've just been perfect today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. And thank you, our viewers, for joining us for a discussion today on the pet therapy program. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Dave's Decorating Center is a proud supporter of the Power Report on WEIU. Dave's Decorating Center features the Mohawk Smart Strand Silk Forever Clean Carpet. Dave's Decorating Center, authorized Mohawk Color Center in Charleston.
The Paw Report on WEIU is supported by Rural King, America's farm and home store, livestock feed, farm equipment, pet supplies, and more. You can find your store and more information regarding Rural King at ruralking.com.
Fetcher's Pet Supply on the north side of the Charleston Square, serving the EIU community since 1991. Fetcher's welcomes all pets on a leash, is open 7 days a week, and offers made in the USA food. Pet supplies for dogs, cats, reptiles, and fish. Fetcher's Pet Supply in Charleston.